How's it going, everybody? My name's Artorigold, and today I'm going to be going over a McCree VOD. This is going to be on one of my Smurf accounts that's in gold. I think it's probably high gold near the platinum level. So McCree is a very strong character. He has the capabilities to deal a lot of damage, but unlike a lot of the other heroes in the game, he lacks a lot of mobility, and he has 200 HP, and that somersault just doesn't compensate for that much. It's powerful for reloads, but it's not that good. Flashbang is basically the main ability that he has, and you want to utilize your flashbang as much as possible on the squishy characters, 200 to 250 HP characters, and you could basically secure kills with that. So, just right off the bat, we're going to go ahead and just get some shots in, not commit to anything unless they come into your range. One of the big things with McCree is you basically want to deal damage from a medium range, not too far, or else your fall off damage will be up. And so this is what I'm talking about. What you want to do is you want people to come to you most of the time, such as flankers like Doomfist, Tracer, and Genji, and then you just wait for a good flashbang moment like that, and then you're able to get an easy headshot off. Like, you can either headshot them or you can right click them, and you really have to decide what's better for each situation. Your right click does 270 damage, which can kill most characters, including ones without armor. I think if you're facing a Brigitte, a full right click might not be able to kill her because of her armor, but most often the left click headshot is the way to go over the right click. And the reason why that is because people can apply healing to them. For example, if someone's healing them, then they can actually heal through the right click damage and they'll survive the burst. Here we got a pick. That's what McCree's really good at. He excels at just getting really good picks when people try to overextend. So here, I'm going to mess up the flashbang a little bit. That's okay. Usually what you want to do is if someone has a shield, you want to aim especially like a Brigitte and Reinhardt, you don't want to flash to ground like that. I was trying to get the Moira as well, but I don't know. I guess Moira wasn't in range of that. But if you go to the left or to the right of the shield, or above the shield, this works for a Reinhardt as well, and you flashbang them around the shields, it'll stun them, and you're able to get damage on. Your flashbang is pretty decent against tanks, but you can't secure a kill against a tank. So if you use flashbang against a tank, it's probably just to weaken them a little bit, or you can maybe use it to combo with be like, hey guys, I'm gonna flashbang in 3, 2, 1. You throw the flashbang above a Reinhardt, and then they can earth shatter, or the Roadhog can hook, or you can have some sort of follow-up from your team. But more often than not, if you do that, it's not a complete waste, but it's not the best use. So what I like to do is I like to left click when it's a squishy hero, right? And the left click will kill them when you flashbang them. But if you're up against a tank or if you're up against a barrier, your right click does more damage, more damage and more DPS. Those are some really clean shots. I like that. Those are pretty good double headshots. If you're able to land headshots on McCree, you will be rewarded for it. Your headshot damage is insane, especially if the target's at medium close range. So right here, this is something that I recommend for everybody, is you can actually be a really great anti-flanker. And so one of the things I highly recommend is to really turn your game volume up, because you can hear Tracers or Doomfists, and you can hear their footsteps or their abilities. The movement is a big giveaway with the sound. I don't listen to music, like, ever. When I play Overwatch, I never listen to music. I have the game volume on as loud as possible so I can hear everything there is to the game. Everything is so distinct. You hear footsteps, you hear abilities, especially like ultimates. Everybody has a voice line with their ultimate, so you know who's using what around the map. It doesn't matter where they are. You'll know wherever your location is. So in an instance like McCree and you hear somebody nearby, I believe I heard somebody nearby, some flanker. I'm not sure what they have on the team. So what you want to do is you just crouch and wait for him, and then you just flashbang. So there he is. Flashbang, right click, dead every single time. And then you get a nice high noon. So one of the things I like to talk about is high noon usage. So I did get a little too impatient here, but it worked out in the end because the Doomfist wasn't able to hit me. So high noon is a pretty interesting ult. The downside to it is, of course, is that, you have to charge it up and you have to stay line of sight and you basically can't move from your location. So it's really difficult to get a good one off, and especially if you start climbing like higher and higher, you'll notice your high noon, it's not a very good ability, and it's very difficult to use effectively. what I like to do with High Noon is I like to get in a place where, you know, like on this map, for instance, you're on the high ground, so you're able to just see everybody, and it's very difficult for them to react to you. So something like this is a really good position. You can also try to flank from behind and get a High Noon off that way. I'd say if you're diamond and below, it's much easier to get these High Noon kills from flanking and go up to a really high up position where you get a really big line of sight on everybody. As you get a higher rank, I suggest using your High Noon just to get one kill. As long as you get one kill with your High Noon, it's worth. And if you do, you can do a lot of damage to tanks with your High Noon as well. For example, I decided to just shoot early on that D.Va instead of like holding to click on it, because taking a tank down from like 100% health down to what? That was like 15% health. That's huge. Any of your teammates can pick it up. So again, here I'm doing the same thing. I'm waiting for one of their flankers to come by. It's very common. If you understand what the mindset of a flanker is, you know where they want to go. They want to go this way. Most of the time, the flanker wants to go the route that's uncommon. So I always look to wait there for a little bit to see if anybody comes. It didn't happen. What I noticed here, it was rather unlucky. I think, okay, yeah. So we look at tab for just a second here. So at this moment in time, I knew that they had a tracer, but the tracer actually switched to McCree. So I was expecting, I guess I wasn't expecting a tracer to come there, but I was expecting a Doomfist to flank at this point in time. But I was kind of waiting for the tracer, and I guess I just wasn't expecting that the guy just came out of spawn like this. So I'm in a really bad position right here. So what I like to do is play around corners where I can bait him to me, because I'm low health. I already took like 2 hits, right? So the only way that I'm going to win this fight is if I get him to somehow push me, and then I could hide behind the corners and use a flashbang, because the flashbang is AoE, and so I could hit him around the corner and surprise him, and whoever lands it first is going to win. So here I'm going to try to bait him around this corner. I'm so lucky that there's a sonar arrow for my Hanzo there. Even if I didn't have this, it would still, I would say my chances are still pretty low. This is a very difficult situation to survive from. But as soon as I see him, I missed the headshot. I panicked a little bit, but luckily I was able to pick things up and I was able to secure the kill. So here, I'm going to be up against the Ana. Ana has a really weird hitbox, by the way. So if you don't have flashbang, it's kind of difficult to hit your shots. So I'm actually just going to completely stand still so I can aim my shot easier. And it is completely fine to do that. Just watch. Stand still and aim. If you're having trouble hitting something, completely stand still and you'll aim so much easier. Now, I don't recommend doing that all of the time, but, you know, because somebody might shoot your face off, especially like a Widowmaker or a Hanzo or another McCree. But the reason why I took my time is because, one, I just killed the McCree, so I know nobody's going to be showing up behind me. They don't have a Widowmaker on their team. And the Ana has no idea that I even exist at this point. So I'm just going to completely stand still and take my time to aim in order to hit my shots, which is something that's completely acceptable to do. Especially against Ana, who has that just weird hitbox. And flashbanning Amora is really, you gotta be careful with that because her fade ability makes her able to dodge it completely. What you need to do as McCree is you need to understand what your flashbang is going to work on and what it's not going to work on. For example, you need to understand if you try to flashbang a D.Va, she has defense matrix so she can stop that. If you try to do it to a Moira, she has fade so she can get away from it. Deflect from Genji is a big one. You gotta be really careful with that. You can use it like above his head or to the side, but it's kind of risky. It really depends on your range. It's something you really need to learn from playing against Genjis a lot. There's a lot of different things to take into consideration with your flashbang. So here, there's no way they're gonna get it. You know, 99%, nobody's near it. So another trick you can do right there, for example, is you can flashbang on the ground, like I just did. If you flashbang on the ground, it's very difficult for a Genji to deflect that. It all depends on the range of the Genji, right? If he's, like, touching you, he's right up in, like, melee range, then flashbanging in the ground while he's deflecting isn't going to be the best option. Something I want to do here on this, this is a very common map for Pharah. And, you know, she gets a great line of sight where she's going to shoot missiles and she's going to concussive blast you. And you have nothing you can do about that. So I like to play it a little slow on this map just to see if they're going to run a Pharah or not. Luckily, she would have shown herself by now. One thing to notice with McCree is that shooting your Reinhardt shield is really ineffective. It's not gonna do a whole lot of damage. You're not designed for that. So we're in a really tough situation. So we don't have our main tank. Our main tank, I think, swapped to something. I'm not sure what, but we have a solo tank Roadhog. Or maybe we never had a main tank. I'm not sure. Either way, they have a Reinhardt and we don't. So this is very tricky. And another reason why it is because they also have a Widowmaker. Meaning we have nothing to block a Widowmaker from just shooting us all in the face. So this is a really tough situation, and normally you probably wouldn't want to peek, which is why I'm playing really passive and slow, because if I peek, the only thing that's going to happen is I'm going to shoot a Reinhardt shield. Like, there's nothing for me to shoot. Everybody's probably behind that shield, and the Widowmaker is going to have tons of free opportunities to shoot at me. So I'm going to play it really safe, and I'm just going to try to peek, wait to see the Widowmaker kind of shoot a bit, and then I'm going to try to follow my tank. Because your tank is going to absorb those Widowmaker shots the best it can. I'm trying to contest her. It's really lucky because that Widowmaker should have killed me from that flashbang. So I got really lucky right there. So here I'm going to push. That's something to notice is just look how much, like, McCree's probably right here. And the flashbang range is pretty huge. This is something you should take note. So the flashbang range is probably something like this. So that's not a perfect circle, I know, but it's a very large range and it's AoE based, so you need to take that into consideration. If somebody's around a corner like this, you can still flashbang them, then you can peek really quickly, bang, and headshot them. So here I'm doing my best to shoot people behind the shield. I'm not trying to bother this Widowmaker. This is a really, like, it's a tough situation, right? Because this Widowmaker is over on the bridge. So we look over here. I don't really have a good line of sight on any of them. The Reinhardt shield's protecting him. It's cracking a little bit, but not so much to where I can do anything. I want to push forward here, obviously, especially with my Roadhog, because he's the one who's going to be doing more shield damage to me. The problem is the Widowmaker's on this bridge, and so all of this line of sight that she's going to have is she's going to shoot me, and this is the big weakness to McCree, is you don't have mobility. Right? Like every other character has some way that they could probably just close this gap really easily, but you just somersault. You're a gymnast. You don't have a whole lot of ground that you can cover with that. You don't have a gap closer as McCree. So you have to compensate that with just your raw damage. And your pick potential is insane. So here I see the Widow and I'm going to try to push her. Unfortunately, I miss like 3 shots and I just die. And it's really unfortunate, but when playing as McCree, if you miss your shots, you're going to die most of the time. Which is one of the reasons you have that flashbang ability, because it guarantees that you're not going to miss those shots. So the enemy team has the point, but I think we're able to continue to apply pressure to them here. I'm not sure. So we're going to get back quickly enough. I see them on the point. I'm not sure who to commit to. I decided to go for the healers here. I thought that was a headshot, so I was going to kill her. So yeah, now we can just get super aggressive. So now I want to get aggressive. What I want to do here is try to apply pressure to the Widowmaker. We don't really have anything that can do it. So this is a technique you can use against the Widowmaker. I'm not sure if I show it here. Yeah. So I'll probably show it off a little bit later, but it's kind of like a peeking strategy. So I guess I think I do it later, and I'll go over that later when it happens. High noon is especially bad. In this matchup, it's really bad. There we go. That's where I do it. Here, let's go into this. So watch my shooting here. Shoot, peek, shoot, peek, shoot, peek. So what's happening here is I know where they are. So what I'm doing is I'm having my I know the enemy is right here, so I'm putting the cursor here. But I'm also going to be moving to the right. And as I move to the right, my cursor is going to move as well with it too. So my cursor, instead of being like here, it's going to be here when I do the movement. So I move, shoot, back, and I peek, shoot, peek, shoot. It's like I'm shooting and peeking at the same time. But by keeping my cursor more to the left here, when I peek, the cursor will move over, move over to this area. So it helps you aim, and it helps you gets the shot off a lot quicker. So you only peek for a second, and that way the Widowmaker isn't able to hit me. Now, the shots aren't going to be as reliable because of that, but you are able to continue you're going to be doing damage. So I right-click there. I don't know if that was the right move or not, because the Ana could have healed him. I don't agree with it. It worked out in the end, but Also, I had my team there who was able to apply damage. But normally in that situation, a soldier who's getting healed by an Ana, you probably don't want to right-click that. You probably just want to headshot him. So here I'm just going to focus on the point because I want to stay out of the line of sight of the Widow. That's one of the important things that I'm doing here, is the Widowmaker can't see us on the point. So as long as we fight on the point, the Widowmaker has to either move towards us, so then at that point I can contest her, or she can just be completely useless. So I'm just going to stay completely out of her line of sight. And here I'm going to use right-click on the tank because it does more damage. Problem is you have to get really close to do that, so I get really close to dying right there. Luckily, my team's there to back me up. Using a flashbang, also really good at interrupting abilities such as Moira ult. It can interrupt a Roadhog, Whole Hog. You could potentially even interrupt things like Earth Shatter from a Reinhardt, but that's much more difficult to do. So here, I don't want to contest the Widowmaker. If you're ever playing a character like Soldier or McCree, and the most you're going to do from that kind of range on a Widowmaker, you're never going to kill a Widowmaker in one hit from it. Even if you land a headshot, if she's full health, that's not going to hurt her. You probably need to headshot her like 3 times from this range. Minimum 2, right? And that's kind of difficult to do, but I'm pretty sure it's 3 at this range. And you're just not going to do enough damage. Like, you have way more to lose in this situation than you do to gain. Because the Widowmaker has a much easier time shooting your face than you do hitting her face. She has a scope. She has a one-shot potential. You have to hit her 3 times. She only has to hit you once. So, risk versus reward. Always ask yourself this in DPS situations. Risk versus reward. Is it better for me to go and commit to get this kill? Or is it better for me to stay alive and just do consistent damage and not get the kill? A lot of situations like that. I decide not to peek it, but I'm not going to peek at her, but I am going to try to close the gap to her. So one of the things that I'm doing here is I'm crouching. When you crouch as a character, you don't give off any footstep noise, which is something you'll see a lot in the Overwatch League. Some characters make a lot more noise than others. For example, Tracer makes like almost no noise whatsoever. So you'll see a lot of people who will just like walk and crouch and walk and crouch and walk and crouch as Tracer because it lets them move quicker while also not giving themselves away. So here's the big problem. I'm about to get right up to this Widowmaker. Now, you're probably not able to hear it right here, so I'll rewind what happens and turn the volume up. But this is one of the reasons why I don't play music or something. I don't listen to music while I'm playing the game because these sounds are so important. It's free information and you need to absorb it and use it as much as you can. So she says the French voice line, the wall hacks are out. I got nothing at this point. So right now I have so much more to lose to be here. She sees me, I don't see her. She can peek, bam, look at that. I'm lucky that wasn't a headshot. So now I'm stuck. I'm stuck, man. What's gonna happen here? She sees me, she knows I'm here. She knows there's a med pack here probably. I mean, who doesn't, right? So she knows I'm probably gonna be at full health. So I try to peek this. The walls, my head's gone. And then not only that, if by some miracle she doesn't hit me there, she's gonna hit me on this sight line here. Because she has perfect sight from this same spot. So I got 2 huge obstacles. And meanwhile, my team's sitting here on the point 95%. So I'm on a stale, like I'm locked down. This is a bad spot. It's really unlucky. So what I need to do here is, well, one of my options. I had 2 options there, right? I could either risk getting my head blown off and do a somersault here, wait for my somersault cooldown, and maybe somersault there. So then I might survive, right? I think Widowmaker ult lasts for 15 seconds. So that's a long time, especially on a King of the Hill map, right? So I guess I went for the high noon play, which effectively does literally nothing. But at the same time, your high noon's kind of garbage. So I guess at this point, all I'm doing is I'm scaring the enemy. It's kind of like a bluff. I don't like this high noon. I didn't want to do this high noon. I felt like I couldn't do anything else, though, because I'm just trapped to this Widowmaker. See, look at her. She's still looking at me. I'm like, is she still looking at me, or is she looking at the point? There's no way she's looking at the point, right? Nope, she's looking at me. Bam, I go down 20 health. And because of this, they got the point back. It's kind of unlucky, and there's not a whole lot that I think I could have done differently here, because there's so much to risk going through this here. At this point, I feel a little bit more confident. I think 15 seconds might have passed. One of the problems is if you're playing King of the Hill, there's no time right up here. But if you're playing a payload map or a 2CP map, it tells you the time. So you can be like, oh, it's 150 and minus 15 and quick math. But on the King of the Hill, you don't have that luxury. So here I'm going to push her. Didn't work out for me. That was my second death. Really unfortunate, but luckily we have time to regroup and go again. So we're going to regroup here, fullest team. This game would have been a lot easier too if we, obviously if we had a main tank, but whenever you play Overwatch, you just need to play like you're not going to get heals and you're not going to get a full 2-2-2 team comp that you want. You got to play like for yourself, by yourself. So here, I'm going to go push this Widowmaker. So one of the things that you can do as McCree, and people kind of don't always expect this, and this is what I was planning to do, you somersault into them, and then flashbang. I was a little late on my flashbang. I don't know why I was late on that. I should have flashbanged way earlier. I guess because I had my Moira with me, I was just like, I don't need to use it right away. So if you somersault flashbang into them, it gets like a pretty good jump on somebody, and if you're in range to do it, it's always very beneficial. So here, just gonna, you know, stun the Reinhardt when he charges, and you can get some really easy headshots off on him when you do that. Unfortunately, he gets the nano. So one of the things that High Noon is good at, it's good at taking out tanks, right? Because tanks, especially with the damage reduction from nano, it's really hard to, like, if I sat there just like left clicking him, it probably would have taken a while. It's much easier to just use High Noon to kill one person. I mean, why not? Especially in a 99% to 99% overtime situation. Overall, with McCree, he's definitely one of the more fun DPS characters to play. He's not exactly meta at the moment. He's a very glass cannon type character, but he lacks a lot of mobility. Overall, if you want to improve at McCree, you need to learn how to get better with positioning, learn to stop and counter the flankers, because you're one of the best characters to stop flankers in the game. Make sure to be patient as McCree. If the enemy team has a Tracer who's always going around and behind, wait for her. Predict what path she's going to on the map. Know what the best flank route is. Stay hidden and then flashbang and kill them once they get into your range. You always want to practice your raw mechanics with McCree, because if you're able to just practice aiming and find the right sensitivity and DPI and all those things for you, you land headshots like insane. Go and do training mode and shoot bots in the face for like 10 minutes before you start your next ranked game. You will notice being warmed up will definitely improve your gameplay. And then for High Noon usage, try to just get one kill with it. If you can get more than one, that's great, but you don't want to sit there and go for these giant High Noon play of the games, because more often it's going to just get yourself killed, because you're very vulnerable when using High Noon, so you have to be really careful when you use it. Anyways, that's it for this VOD. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys learned something, had something you can take away from it, and I'll see you guys next time.